Ready? All right, let's do it. Hey guys, it's Cyrus of Chaos. Today I'm here with Peter Burchard, and we're going to be talking about some things that he's done so far as president of the USFA. I spoke to Peter a few months ago, along with all the other candidates who are running for positions on the board of directors and running for the president position, about his platform. And so today we're just going to follow up with him and see, again, what he's done and what some of his plans are for the future. So, Peter, do you want to introduce yourself or?
I'm Peter Burchard, president of the board, USA Fencing. First thing I'd like to do is offer a big thanks to Andrew, Mr. Chaos, for creating this forum for fencing discussion and for using his platform and analysis to keep the fencing community engaged with the sport while options for participation are limited here in the pandemic. So otherwise, I'm here on the West Coast and doing my best to move fencing forward and take it away.
Right. So, the first question I'm going to ask you actually wasn't in the forum. So, for people watching this who didn't know, after Peter came to me and asked to do a follow up interview, I made an AMA on Reddit so that anybody who wanted to could ask questions, and then we would go through them and ask the most common or relevant questions. And when Peter and I were going through those questions, it seemed like a lot of those questions weren't actually related to what his day to day or even long term doings are as president. So the first thing I wanted to do was give him a chance to clarify exactly what he does as president. So can you talk about what you do on a day to day basis, what you do on like a long term basis? Just explain your role a bit more.
Yeah. So as I said, I'm the president of the board of directors, and as the president, I I set the agenda for meetings and what issues the audience and discussion from the board. I take motions to the board and I bring them. Like someone asked me something, if I consider it worthy, then I bring actions to the board, such as bylaw changes, say, or fiscal things like a budget item, something like that. Um, I don't have a vote. I only vote in case of tie, so I'm just presiding. Um, and I make nominations to the U.S. Fencing Board for appointed positions, and those are vice presidents, of which at the moment there are none, and also what are called independent directors, which are people, there are three of them, and they have no connection with fencing, supposedly, or at least not within the last 10 years. So that's interesting. I recently nominated a new person who's going to come on for her first meeting here coming up February 24th, and her name is Lauren Haney. She's an athletic director, but not a fencing person. She's at Brandeis University, and her background in college and stuff is Penn State, and but no fencing, even though Penn State, of course, as we all know, is super strong. So that'll be exciting to bring her in. And I also make nominations to the FIE. So there are commissions and councils on the FIE, and many countries get one only representative on each of these commissions and councils, or none at all, or just on a couple, considering the profile of USA fencing, especially recently, thanks to newly recognized, I should say thanks in part to newly recognized USOPC Coach of the Year, Greg Macialis, and his colleagues, with all of the medals that, I could name lots and lots of coaches, but I just haven't named that since it was recent. And so we have quite a big profile. So we're optimistic that we will be able to continue having a person on many, if not all, of the councils and commissions at the FIE.
That's
And
fantastic.
I thank my predecessor, Don Anthony, for sort of pioneering that work, because before that we weren't as involved, or we didn't have as many representatives. And the more, the better for our fencers and for our organization in general. And I'm also the liaison between USA Fencing and organizations that partner with us, like the USOPC, the FIE, and other IWAS for parafencing, etc. So that's supposed to foster relations between them and other bodies that that we interact with. The Center for Safe Sport comes to mind, although that's not an easy place to get into, and I think we kind of wait for them, and we're not supposed to really approach. But anyway, I'm supposed to, from my understanding of the bylaws, also foster that way.
Mm-hmm. So some of the questions that were asked had to do with resumption of tournaments, details about international fencing events, and setting up the online coaching and refereeing systems. But those things are outside of your purview. Is that correct?
Let's see. I know a lot about what's being planned. I can't command like a king or anything.
Right. That's what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah. So I discuss and make suggestions, but it's pretty much up to Executive Director Chris Eckeren and her staff at the national office. They're professionals, and they decide how to move forward with resumption to tournaments. There's a recent announcement about that, and this is in consultation with the CDC as well as local and state governments, and their dictates, and also health professionals to establish protocols for tournaments. Andrew, you and I were discussing Mission Fencing Center and the amazing protocols that they put through in a very early tournament. And I think they followed exactly this type of recommendation and guidelines from organizations such as the CDC, et cetera. And USA Fencing has created a pretty elaborate one also. So as we move forward, we'll still recognize the frightening fury of the COVID and try to mitigate that circumstance, I'm sure.
Yeah.
As far as like me saying who gets it, who doesn't, or do this, do that, that's not me.
Right. Yeah. That's good to hear.